Good. Well, welcome. We are so excited that everyone is here. And for those of us who will be joining later to host this celebration of our virtual book launch. And so we'll just kind of quickly go over what the agenda looks like for this evening. We are part of Global Intergenerational Week, which did start on April 24th and runs through the 30th. So welcome to anybody who might be joining us from across the country or even across the globe. Again, very excited to have you all here with us tonight. We are going to talk about Roots and Rounds and do kind of a quick introduction of the organization, as well as talk about the book launch. We do have the author as well as the illustrator with us tonight, so excited to go through that. We have a surprise announcement, and then we will close it out. So first, just want to quickly touch on age, which is what we are here to really talk about. Age is the one diversity characteristic that we all share. We are working to be more inclusive of what each generation can bring to the table. And many do see the benefit of having diversity of thought and experience, but many do not. And a strong sense of belonging is really one of the secrets to a high performing team. So, welcome again. I'm Laura Pope. I am the board president for Roots and Rounds. And we have with us Crystal Golnick, who is our founder, as well as currently our board secretary, and also Kelly Hines, who is a founding member as well as a board member. Roots and Rounds is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and we are really working to bridge the wisdom and energy of all ages in our communities and our workplaces through improved intergenerational communication and leadership skills. But before we really get started and talk about the organization and what it's about and how it supports intergenerational awareness, I do want to make sure everybody knows that we do have the chat open and we do want to hear from you. So please send in your questions. Please feel free to use the chat button at the bottom of your screen there. Send in your questions and we'll try to get to those, or I'll leave some time at the end as well. So hopefully we can answer your questions either about the organization or about the book or anything that we're going to touch on tonight. So first, to get us started, let's really talk about what is Roots and Rounds. So Crystal, as our founder, can you give us just a sneak peek behind why you started this organization?
Sure, Laura. I have lots of answers, but I'll try to give you an overview first and then get into maybe some personal reasons why. The official answer is that really generational conflicts have been a reality for centuries. I think we all know that, right? But however, they've really gained increased social media attention. If you've seen lots of different buzzwords out there in the general public, people are paying more attention to it. And honestly, a lot of academics are paying more attention to the fact that we have such a broad range of ages alive and active in our communities these days. So, several research organizations worldwide confirm that there are now 7 generations alive, 6 volunteering in our communities, and 5 are earning a paycheck in the workforce, really for the first time in human history. And so people are living longer. Technology is advancing exponentially, I can never say that word, faster than most humans can handle. And honestly, I think this situation can be kind of scary, but it also presents an opportunity for positive growth, at least in my opinion. So that's why we started. And I think by addressing these challenges, we can really help ensure that humans' ability to fully reach their potential and prosper through personal work and community relationships isn't hindered. So, in other words, the short answer is kindness goes a long way, and we really just want to promote that. So, our mission, we actually started the organization in 2019, and we came up with the mission that you see on the screen there. Roots and Rounds is an intergenerational leadership development organization bridging the wisdom and energy of all ages and communities and workplaces through improved communication and other critical leadership skills. It's really about growing leaders across intergenerational teams.
Great. I love what you said, and especially about kindness. This is a great quote from Amelia Earhart.
Yeah, I love this quote. It's when I don't know if I've shared this with very many people, but I flew hot air balloons for several years and I've actually done some airplane flying as well. And so I have done a little research on different pilots and I ran across this quote from Amelia Earhart, gosh, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, and I just love it. It's a single act of kindness throws out roots in all directions and roots spring up to make new trees. And I think that really applies to this work that we have going on right now.
Absolutely. And definitely ties back to organization and to the name,
Yeah.
as I think this does too. And you can touch on this as well. But as you kind of develop this organization, I think looking at how you wanted us to focus in on some of these different principles.
Yeah, exactly. So, Laura, I gave you the academic reason why we started the organization, right? It's the one that works really well for grant applications and things like that. But honestly, the personal reasons that inspired me to start this organization are simply just the realization that I wasn't always experiencing these things, the inclusivity, respect, and innovation as much as I wanted to in my work and in my volunteer experiences. And honestly, more importantly, I was witnessing these same challenges happening in many of my clients' lives and even my family members' lives who were dealing with serious communication issues that just seemed to stem from a lack of emotional intelligence, just unawareness of what other people are feeling and what, the perspective that they might be coming to a conversation from. And I also think that we could all use a little work on communication skills. I know, frankly, I can. And I thought, well, if I need to work on this a little bit more, perhaps others do as well. And maybe they'd like to join me on this journey of improvement. So that's really kind of what started the organization. And it was fun to dig into the research around it and just talk to people. Laura, I remember you and I even talking about some of the challenges that we were
Yes.
experiencing, right?
Yes. Absolutely. And how relevant it was. And I love your thoughts on, the lifelong ability to improve, lifelong learning. I think that definitely resonates for a lot of people.
Yeah,
And just looking at the generations and the chart that's on here, can you speak a little bit to that and where you see, what do you think some of the differences are even today? What maybe is the biggest difference that you're seeing between these generations?
sure. I'm glad you asked that. So one of the things, just to tell you a little bit about where this chart came from, we, as I mentioned earlier, did a little bit of research into just is there anything out there specifically addressing generational differences and maybe even more than that, generational commonalities. And the reality was is that there wasn't a lot out there. There's a lot of talk about it, but not a lot of talk about how to really address it. And so I started putting together a little chart, just sort of mapping out, okay, here are the different generations. What does that actually mean? Not only the names behind them, but how they can be used. So I took a look at this and I felt like it was helpful for me to not only look at years, but think about, okay, so what age group is that actually talking about? And maybe who in my life fits into these different categories, right? So this little strip that you see on the screen was my helpful way of just sorting through all of that. And one of the things I discovered was that honestly, a lot of different research organizations define these different generations slightly differently, different years, but they're fairly close, right? And we put together a chart that has a lot of characteristics on how different generations see themselves in the workplace and the family life, how they respond, to communication, how they prefer to be communicated with, some of those sorts of things. And we share all of that in our programming. But um, I think the biggest difference here, which is what you asked, is that the life experiences of the older generations, so the GI generation, the silent and traditionalist generation, and the baby boomers, and even us Gen Xers, I'm a Gen Xer, um, our experiences drastically differ from younger people who have been raised with the technology that all of these older generations are responsible for creating. I think that's probably the biggest thing. And these younger generations, so I'm talking about the millennials, Generation Y, Generation Z, Generation Alpha, um, they're all really experiencing the world through some different eyes and the ability to stay connected, at least digitally, to each other in a way that we just didn't have. My daughter's getting ready to go off to college this fall, and I've been thinking through how, gosh, when I went to college, I was lucky if I got to call home, once a week or something like that. Maybe not even that often because it was long distance. And that is simply not the case anymore, right? I have a feeling that we are probably going to be connected daily, at least for a while, simply because we're used to communicating with each other that way now. So I do think that's a pretty big difference. And I also think technology and our willingness to and ability to communicate verbally and face to face, those are big differences as well, right? We're just not even willing to sometimes talk to each other face to face anymore because we are so used to texting and using our thumbs or our fingers on a keyboard. So I don't know. Our humanity is the thread, I think, that holds us together. So even when we find it difficult to respect each other, we can at least begin to connect when we remember that we're just people who are full of imperfections. And in fact, being able to connect and establish trusted bonds with each other is really critical for us to survive our entire race, right? To survive. So we all share something, regardless of when we were born. We all need to eat, for instance, right? Those are things that we share. So it's a place to start.
Absolutely. No, I love the points that you're making there and the changes that we faced, but yet the commonalities that we continue to go back to. So that's great information. Kelly, I want to bring you into the conversation too. How did you get involved with this organization?
Yeah, I have known Crystal for a while now. I interned for her in college and have done various projects. We've worked together on many projects. And when she approached me with this organization, I was hearing her talk, and it definitely felt personal. Because I have for one experienced some, communication issues with various generations. And I just think it's something that we definitely can all improve on and learn how to communicate and grow. Like, I want to learn how to grow and communicate with all the generations, relationships with work, community, everyone around me. So it's a great organization.
Great. Glad to hear it. So as part of Intergenerational Week, we have a pretty exciting project that we want to launch. Kelly, would you be interested in revealing what that project is that we've been working on?
Of course. I am so excited to share that we are all in part of the virtual launch of our book. Stone Soup, a familiar folktale, brings all ages together. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, bookshop.org, um, various places. It was written by Crystal, illustrated by me, published by Mission Point Press, and we cannot wait for you to read it and share across all generations. We'd love to see your pictures, stories of you reading to people around you, and just what you think. So, yeah, we're
Fantastic.
excited.
Yes, love it. Love to see the picture of this book. Love to see you too. So excited about it. And definitely want to get into talking about this book. So, Kelly, have you ever done anything like this before? I mean, illustrating a book. This is major. Have you ever done such a big project like this?
No, no, I haven't. My background is in graphic design, so I've worked on projects, smaller scale, brand building, um, just, well, everything, and online print materials, but I've never done a print material this big. And this was my first time and I loved it. It was a lot of hard work. It took 2 years to complete from start to
Wow.
finish, but I am over the moon to be a part of this project and
That's
sharing
super
it.
exciting.
Yeah.
Good. How did you feel when Crystal approached you and she asked, do you want to illustrate a book? No, I've never done anything like this. I mean, that's a pretty big challenge to take on.
Yeah, it definitely was. I'm not gonna lie, you guys, I was really nervous because I've never done anything like this before, but I clearly love books. I love children's books, and to this day, I'm an avid reader of them. I check them out at the library. I purchase them. I think they're really important. I've always loved the art, so it was something I've always wanted to do. I seriously never thought I would get the opportunity. So when Crystal approached me, I was like, yeah, of course, like no hesitation. But I was really nervous because I hadn't done it before. So there was a lot of learning. There was a lot of, I'm not gonna lie, there was some times where I felt I was like, I'm way over my head. What am I gonna do? I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. And you get a little bit of imposter syndrome, like, can I do this? But of course I did. You just have to tell yourself, take it really small, like small goals, set
Sure.
little bits at a time. Of course, it took 2 years. So, Crystal was amazing to work with. She's so talented. And I couldn't imagine a different partner, a better partner, to work on this first project with and to learn so much. So it
That's
was
fantastic.
amazing.
You
Yeah.
know,
That's so great. Can you show us? I think we have some images of just kind of what the process was like for you, and maybe walk us through, how do you even start? Like I can't even draw a stick figure, so I have no idea what it would be like to illustrate a book.
Well, I actually started with stick figures.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're saying there's a chance for me.
there's
That's
a chance. There's a chance. If you guys were to actually see my renderings, like, if you were to actually see how they started originally, you would be like, they were very similar to the cave paintings, but from back in the day. But it's getting the idea down. Talking with Crystal about ideas like, oh, in this scene we want to, really showcase this, we want to show this. And it's getting something down really fast and getting the ideas down, getting too many ideas and narrowing it down. And then you just keep adding little details and you keep refining, practice as you see here. One of the rough drafts of this particular scene, it's really rough. Like there's a lot of getting the ideas down, working with Crystal, thinking about it, saying, does this actually work? Is it trying to tell the story that I and Crystal have worked really hard to show you guys? And these drawings went through a lot of iterations and a lot of different, they had makeovers constantly. And as you see from the final version, we got to a place where there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of depth, and really just emotion brought into it. And so yeah, it's it's a crazy process, but it was fun.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the rough draft looks amazing. Like there's no way I could ever do anything to that level. But I love what you're saying about just like showing the activity, showing the emotion, showing the depth of it, and then thinking about that on the page with the words and telling the story. You have to think through that process. And for someone like me, just opening the book and reading it, it's already there.
Yeah.
I don't have to think through that. But so it's very interesting to hear it from your perspective on how you had to think through that in such an early stage and you're telling a story through a picture.
Yeah. And especially like asking yourself constantly and asking Crystal, like, is this what we're trying to show the audience? Is this what we're trying to say? And just really stepping back and going, it's kind of hard to do that step back, but you need to step back and think, okay, if I was seeing this for the first time, does this convey the information that we want to get across without ever reading, the words? And so I think we succeeded. And yeah.
Yes, I think it's amazing. Looks great. Looks great. This right here. Tell us about this scene. Was this something that was easy for you? This looks pretty intense to me.
Yeah, this one was actually a huge challenge.
Okay.
This one in the whole book had the most changes, but it actually has become one of my favorite scenes in the book because it's, one of the first things you see, and it really sets the scene. We we had to make sure that it felt relatable. So when people are going through the book, you'll see, oh, I, recognize that camper. I recognize the row of cabins. There's where the restaurant is. So it kind of helps them realize like what's going on.
Okay, I like it. Now, Crystal, this story was originally a folk tale, and then it was an adaptation from some other stories. How did you come up with that idea? How did you decide to put that into this book?
Yeah, actually, so I'm sure everybody's heard, well, maybe not everyone, but many people have heard of the folktale Stone Soup. I certainly did. I remember reading it in my hometown library in Holly, Minnesota when I was growing up, and loved the story back then. So we used the traditional version of this story that I grew up with in one of our pilot rounds of programming when we were testing whether or not the general concepts of, I guess in this case, everyone having something of value to share with the group. Just wanted to see if that story would translate to our conversation about reducing ageism and valuing everyone's unique strengths of talent and perspectives, right? So what we discovered in that pilot program where we had participants helping us out, and they were ages, I think our youngest was 13 and our oldest was 74, and we had quite a few different ages in between. It was a group of 2 dozen people that helped us test some of our programming. We call them our adventure advisory team. And the feedback was that it went over great. They got the concept immediately, but they felt like it would be wonderful if we had a more relatable way to meet people where they are today with different cultural references. That would be helpful. So I looked around just to see if maybe there was an updated version that would help us out. And what I found were versions from all over the place. A French version where there's 3 traveling soldiers that make the soup. In China, there's 3 monks, and in Sweden, there's an exchange between a tramp and a stingy old woman using a nail instead of a stone. And there was another one from Mexico that used a cactus, and in Russia that used a button.
Mhm.
But none of them were really modern day, if you know what I mean. And so we just decided to go ahead and make up our own. We just got busy writing. Um,
Okay.
I
So
sat down one Saturday morning and there you go. That's how we came up with it.
I love it. Where did the camping idea come from?
Yeah, so I wrote several versions before settling on kind of a recreation area and then bounced the idea off of family and friends who were helping out. Did a few more edits after that before settling on the story that we've actually published here. But the one thing that we kind of discussed when we were talking about this setting is that most people, even if you live in, New York City, you've probably been camping or you've at least seen a movie about it, right? So it's a setting that we felt would work whether you were in a rural area or a really populated urban area, you could probably relate to the situation in this story. And I don't want to ruin the story for all of you, but
Okay, yeah.
the folks in the story find themselves in a precarious position that they have to get themselves out of. So we just, I don't know, we felt like the story's been told for centuries across the globe in a lot of ways, and we wanted to make it relevant for those that we're working with in our programming and anyone else today, and really just promote the idea that everybody has something to share of value. So
Fantastic. I love it. Kelly, were there any specific references or inspirations that maybe you had to look to while you were looking, working on illustrating the story?
Yeah, I really paid attention to the world around me. I'm very inspired by nature anyways, and I would go to the park down the street. I grew up on acreage and that my parents still reside, so when I got stuck, I would go to their acreage, look around, look at the trees, look at the grass. When I was working with people, like working on the people drawings, I kind of made my friends and family were models. So like I'd make them stand a certain way and kind of they would help me along. But yeah, it's the world around me, everything from, trees to people, everyone was an inspiration on this project and it really helped me out. And it was, open your, when you're kind of when your inspiration is lacking, just look at the world around you. That's my biggest advice.
No, I love it. I love it. If you get stuck on something, right? Maybe, just go and you're looking for something else and finding your way through that. And that's perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
So Crystal, what do you hope people will take away from the book? Is this more for children? Is this for adults? What are you hoping they're going to learn?
it's a great question. Both, technically. It is listed by our publisher, Mission Point Press, as a juvenile book for ages 2 to 12. But I have to say, as a collector of children's books, I have a whole bookshelf full, much to my husband's demise. Um, well, I love children's literature because I feel like it does several different things, right? One, it entertains, but it's usually written by adults most of the time, and it's usually written because we have something that we want to share with the people who are most important to us, our next generation, our youngest. And so that's why I feel like it's really for everyone. But I will add that in the back we added some extra bonus information for adults. So we have some discussion questions. We have a bullet pointed list of key takeaways that you can use. There's a recipe if you're a cook. We experimented with a lot of different stone soup recipes, and so we're pretty excited. We tested out the one that's in the book with two different events worth of people, and folks really seem to like it. And there's also information just on hosting a stone soup event and how to do that in the back. So we do feel like it is for all ages for those reasons.
So is there really a stone in the soup? Because now I need to know.
There is
No,
not.
don't spoil it. Don't spoil it. Oh, you just did.
I
Okay.
just did, but I will tell you that for those people who have been through a Stone Soup event with us, they get to take home their very own stone that's engraved with our logo, which is kind of fun.
I
So,
love it. I love it.
yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you sharing your process with us. I think that was very enlightening to learn how you went through all of that and the amount of time that it took and effort you put into this project. So we are very excited to see it. I know, Kelly, if you can just tell us one more time those three places that we can get it.
BarnesandNoble.com, Amazon.com, sorry, and bookshop.org. My brain went.
Okay. Nope.
So
Perfect. Perfect.
bookshop.org, Amazon, and Barnes and Noble.
Fantastic. And then we did have a question, and I don't know the answer to this, but will it be released in a Kindle edition?
That is a great question, and it's
Okay.
one that we are working on with our publisher to see if we can get that done and how soon. So stay
Okay.
tuned. When that happens, let you all know on our Facebook page and LinkedIn page, and we'll also post it on our website where links to all of these things now reside as well. It's at rootsandrounds.org /stone soup book. So you can find it if you just go to rootsandrounds.org as well.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Wonderful. Well, I know we have a lot of people on the call tonight who are supporters of this project. So very excited that we've reached this point where we were able to share the book with everyone. But we do have one particular couple who really inspired us, and we are making a special announcement tonight about our next project with Roots and Rounds. Um, and I will make that announcement. So we are going to do the Roots and Rounds Book Club in honor of Wayne and Julia Knaus. And I believe that we do have Miss Julia on the phone with us. So we're very excited to be able to make that announcement live with her. So this will be our first, our next project, and our first book will be announced on our social media sites very soon. And we will do another virtual event, much like this one we're doing tonight. So after we've announced the book, we allow everyone a chance to read that, and then we will come back together for an online book club so that we can discuss that. So we appreciate everyone's support, and hopefully you will join us in July when we do our first book club. So, Crystal, any words you would like to share with us about these great supporters who might also be your mother?
Yes, I just have to say that both Wayne, my dad, and Julia, my mom, have just always been great at conversation. So I wanted to share this quote with you. Sometimes the greatest adventure is simply a conversation. And that is so true. They've taught us three girls, myself and my sisters, Angie and Rose, just to be good conversationalists, which means not only being able to express yourself, but also being able to listen, and make sure that people feel heard. And I really think that that is one skill set that's been a huge asset in all of our lives. And so we thank them for that. We honor them for their support. And we just appreciate this valuable lesson and look forward to sharing that same lesson with many others through our work in Roots and Rounds. So thank you. We're very excited about having a book club and being able to engage with people across the country in conversations that matter as we move forward.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right. Well, we really appreciate everyone who was able to join us tonight, and definitely hope that you are able to stay connected with us. For more information, you'll have here on the screen is Crystal's cell phone number as well as the QR code, which you can scan right there. You can visit us on rootsandrounds.org or also send us an email. So as I mentioned earlier, we will be announcing that book very shortly, so you can join us for our upcoming book club. That will be going on quarterly. So as we move through this year and into the next and the future, we will have a quarterly event where we do an online hosting. As well as we do have some other events coming up for the organization. I know Crystal briefly touched on our adventure advisory group. We'll have another one of those coming up. So please reach out, stay connected with us. We'd love to hear from you. Appreciate all the great comments in the chat. And if anyone has any questions, we'll hang out here for a few more minutes and we are able to take your questions.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.